Welcome to T. Kermit Tower Gymnasium for the first ever live wrestling broadcast as the West Washington Senators take on the Cougars of North Harrison. This is Craig Akers, and I will be joined tonight by my broadcast partner, Mr. Keith Nance. Tonight has been a long time in the making. There's been talk around the hallways at school for many years about getting a wrestling program, and it finally did happen. The students were asked how much interest there was, and then asked to form a proposal for the school board. It finally went through the board, and we're here tonight just a few short months later. So these guys have been on the mat for around 2 months. And a lot of people are asking, why wrestling? Keith?
Well, the kids were the motivating factor, number one, and the one thing that I always compliment our school board on, and our teachers and our staff and our administration, is we want to put the kids first. And what we had was a group of highly motivated kids that were interested in wrestling, and we wanted to have something complementary to basketball in the winter. Not every kid can shoot a basket, not every kid can dribble a ball, and there's a lot of downtime through the wintertime for our students, especially our student athletes. And this sport reaches out to a whole different type of student athlete. So we wanted to make sure that there was something for all of our kids. And you'll see tonight that there are a lot of kids on this wrestling team that don't participate in other sports here at West Washington. And this is kind of a niche sport. It gives them an opportunity to get out and compete, gain valuable life lessons, gain valuable confidence. And I'm proud of the kids that have been working hard. This is something hard to pick up and go out full bore and go out and compete right away in a varsity setting. And these guys have taken it on head on, and they've worked really, really hard. And you'll see some of that hard work tonight.
That's definitely a true statement. It's not something that comes easily. It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication. It's not one of those things that West Washington has had, and they don't have a background in it. So everything they're going to show you tonight, they've learned in the past 2 months.
Yeah, and one thing I'm sure that we'll talk about throughout the wrestling matches tonight, and one thing that Coach Tank talks to the kids about a lot is chain wrestling and feeling. It's almost a feel type of sport. It's an instinctual type of sport, and you don't pick up instincts in 2 months. So these kids have a huge task in front of them, which is going out and competing against kids that have had a lot more mat experience than they have. And these guys have not been discouraged by that. It's a matter of going out and competing and knowing sometimes your hand's going to be raised and sometimes the other guy's hand's going to be raised. But I think that gets at the heart of a true competitor, which is you compete no matter what. It's easy to compete when it's a shoe win, it's a sure win, and it's a little more difficult when you got to go out there and it might be a toss-up, or you might be facing a guy who's been a regional or semi-state qualifier in the past, and you've been working on it for 2 months.
Yeah.
So proud of them for coming out and taking on that challenge.
Definitely kind of a nice thing tonight. North Harrison is also a brand new startup team, so we're not going to see any of those regional, or semi-state qualifiers tonight. But the Senators have already been out in competition and have seen some of those guys. So, tonight is a matchup of two first-year wrestling programs who have been, starting out at about the same time. So that's definitely a nice way to start off your home, wrestling career overall. If you were hoping to see a set of ropes and an elevated wrestling ring, that's not what you're going to see tonight. Tonight we're wrestling folk style, which is the style that you wrestle in high school and college. And instead of the ring that's elevated off the floor, as you can see, there is a mat on the floor that is made out of foam, so it protects the wrestlers just a little bit. You're not going to see any of those ropes or anything. There's none of that kind of stuff here, but it's definitely a high-intensity, high-impact sport. Also a change this year, the National Federation got away from mandatory singlets, which I believe you're going to see North Harrison in tonight, but the West Washington Senators do have the new two-piece uniform, which can tend to draw more people out to it because they don't have to wear the tight-fitting singlet of the old days from when I was growing up coming through wrestling. That was the mandatory. So
yeah, and it's Tankersley talks about this a little bit. For kids that are new to the sport, if you've grown up your whole life wrestling when you're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and it's like you're born into a singlet. But if you're new to the sport, it could be a deterrent to a kid. It's awkward to be a teenager anyway, and then to be out there in a singlet. You may get a kid or two that is motivated to wrestle and not deterred by what the uniform is. So
definitely. Well, as most of the people in the gym tonight and those of you at home, this is your first experience with wrestling. So we're going to break down some of the basic stuff that's going to go on. We're looking to score points, and there's different things that you can do to score points. The first one would be a takedown, and that's when you go from your feet, both people on their feet, and then one person is on top and the other person is down. That will get you 2 points. With that, then if you can turn your opponent over to their back, depending on how long you hold them there, you can get another 2 or 3 points. Then if the bottom person gets away, gets an escape, gets up, gets away from the person who is trying to hold them down, that's worth a point. And then if you're on bottom and you end up on top of the other person who's then in the down position, you score 2 points. So sounds very simple, very easy. Not really the case once you get going. Much harder to score than what that really sounds like.
The one thing that I'll make note of is there are times when you'll watch a match and it'll seem like not much is going on. For example, 2 guys in the neutral position and they're fighting for control. They're fighting for wrist control. They're fighting to get in a position to where they can get a takedown. You wouldn't think it, but it can be extremely exhausting to be in that scenario or be in a situation where you're on bottom, the other person's in a control position, and you're fighting for an escape, or you're fighting up off your belly. Every time you got to fight up off of your belly, get to your knees, and then get to an escape or a reversal, it takes a lot out of you. And 3 periods of wrestling, 6 minutes of wrestling, I'd say is equivalent to a half of playing basketball or running 2 miles on the track. It's exhausting.
Well, and to go with that, this is a dual setting, so there's only 2 teams here, but a lot of times you wrestle invitationals, which there's 6, 10 teams, so you'll wrestle 5 times in a day. So it's the equivalent to playing 2.5 games of basketball in one day, back to back to back to back to back. So it's one of those that even though it doesn't look like there may be a whole lot being taken out, there's still quite a bit of energy being expelled there.
Yeah, and it is mentally and physically exhausting. But and to wrestle an entire day, I know when we had the opportunity to go to Edgewood and face some really stiff competition, that was a great experience for our kids, a great growing experience for our kids. But in addition, it was a situation where they got introduced to the sport and they realized, okay, I understand this is going to be a meat grinder. When you go on a Saturday and you wrestle 5 teams and you get up leave school at 6 o'clock in the morning and you get home at about 5 o'clock in the evening. I'm sure those guys spend a lot of time on the couch Sunday.
Yeah. And this is not only an individual sport, but it's also a team sport because not only can you win as a individual, but you can also win as a team. So there are different ways that the team can score points for you. So an example is if you go out and you pin your opponent, you get 6 points for your team. Likewise, if you go out and you beat your opponent by 15 points by getting takedowns and back points and escapes and reversals and all those things, you get 5 points. If you win on points between 8 and 14 points, you get 4 points for your team. And if you go out and win by 0 to 7 points, you get 3 points for your team. So even though you may not win your match, you may win as a team, and it can go the other way too. You can lose as a team or win your match, but lose as a team. So it's important to score as many points as you can for your team as well as yourself. So basically, this is a sport about scoring points.
Yeah, and if you battle a guy for 3 periods, and lose a close contest by points. In the overall scheme of things, you're saving your team points, because instead of a 6-point pinfall, the other team's only scoring 3.
Right.
So
it's one of those that's definitely a sport where, you know, you've got to look out for you look out for yourself first, and then you look out for your team, you know, after that. But it's all the same. You know, at the same time you're scoring points for yourself, you're also scoring points for your team. So that's, you know, super important. You know, the more points you can score, the more points your team's going to get, the better off the team's going to be overall. One thing that happens quite a bit with the wrestling programs are that you end up with weight classes where there aren't people in them. Luckily tonight, North Harrison has moved some people around, and so has West Washington, to cover all of the forfeits that are out there. So there's not going to be anybody who gets their hand raised tonight because there's not somebody in their weight class. We're going to see, I believe it's 12 matches tonight at the varsity level, and then I believe we're going to have a couple of JV matches also. So it's one of those that, you know, we're going to talk you through it as we go, but it's definitely a learning process. We don't expect you to have it right off the bat. It's going to be a neat experience for everybody, you know, here in the gym, having their first experience with wrestling, and the people who are at home watching, you know, your first experience with West Washington being on the wrestling mat.
Yeah, and one thing to take note of, we're a little shorthanded tonight. That's disappointing, but we've got 2 guys that have made a commitment that after they graduate high school, they're going to join the Navy, and Waylon Dykus and recently Noah Baker. And both of those guys are going to be, tonight was an engagement in Indianapolis for their MEPS. So, you know, they're thinking big picture, and we got to applaud them for their service and their commitment to what they're going to do after school and their commitment to their country. But unfortunately, we're not going to get to see them wrestle tonight. And those guys are guys that have worked very hard. And Noah was a key factor to even helping us get wrestling because he was really leading the charge.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not sure if Tanner is wrestling tonight. I know that he had an injury, and I'm not sure if he's gonna be on the mat or not tonight.
The lineup that Tank just gave me has Tanner in it, so we will see once they get to you know, Tanner's weight class if he is going to compete tonight or not. But at the moment, that's the plan, is for him to compete. You know, wrestling is one of those that leads pretty close into the military. You know, there's a lot of wrestlers who, you know, get their endurance and their motivation and then do go into the military of some sort. So that's great for you know, the senators who have 2 who are already committed to go into the military. You know, Keith, what's your wrestling experience? What's the background there?
Well, really not dissimilar from some of the guys on the team, because I was a wrestler that came into it later in my career. Growing up in New Albany, they've had wrestling, but I was not a wrestler from the time I was little. I was a football player, and I had some really good friends that were on the wrestling team, and I was close with a teacher who was the wrestling coach. And so my junior year, they were in need of a heavyweight wrestler, and they continued to ask me, and I did join the wrestling team. And just like some of these guys, I had a trial by fire. My first wrestling matches were at the Mater Dei Holiday Tournament, and
a meat grinder in itself.
Mater Dei themselves are a terrific wrestling program, but it brings schools with great wrestling backgrounds from the state of Kentucky, the state of Illinois, and the state of Indiana. And I went home that day licking my wounds and learning a lot and understanding a little bit of what this sport's about. But I will say the growth that you can have over a year's time can be pretty extraordinary, because by the time we got to the end of the year, I was a regional qualifier for New Albany, and you know, went into the regional, and it was interesting because the coaches seed the tournaments, and I was the lowest seed in the regional, and I was the person with the worst record in the regional, because, you know, those first 6 or 8 weeks of the season, I learned a lot, and you learn a lot on the mat, and you learn a lot in defeat. And to me, is one of the most valuable personal lessons I learned through athletics, which was, you know, how to be humble, in both defeat and in victory. And when you're a part of a team sport, particularly like football, where you have so many players contributing, you can walk off the field and you can lose the game, and you always have your teammates to lean on and say, well, we lost the game. When you go out on the wrestling mat and you happen to lose, there's a lot of reflection because it's all you.
It's all you. You're the only one out there.
Yeah. Take a lot of ownership when you're out there on the mat.
Yeah. Well, I have kind of a different background than you, Keith. I grew up in wrestling. I started at the age of 4, wrestled all the way through high school. Was because I had the background before I got to high school. I had the advantage. Once I stepped on the mat as a freshman, I'd already wrestled thousands of matches. I was a 4-time semi-state qualifier. I was a 1-time state qualifier. I had over 140 wins in my high school career through Newcastle, which is, when I was growing up, one of the premier programs in the state. The modern day team that you're talking about, we wrestled twice in the state finals as a team.
Yeah.
So a lot of background, a lot of knowledge there, and it's one of those, I've been waiting, like all the students, for the night that West Washington has wrestling, and the night that the wrestling mat is down on the basketball court.
Yeah.
And we get to have wrestling here at a school, that isn't a 4A school, isn't a 3A school, isn't a 2A school. Has an enrollment of about 400 kids in the entire high school, but field almost an entire wrestling team of 14 people at 14 different weight classes. It's a neat experience to be able to have, and a neat experience to be able to be a part of, making history tonight with those, young men who have, put forth the time and put forth the effort to get a program here and make it to the first home match of the year. So that's a great, accomplishment for, those young men who are, here and are ready to wrestle. And I know a lot of them are super excited about tonight being the first home wrestling match that they have. Couple of keys to victory for tonight. Number one, you got to use the moves that you know. Coach Tankersley has taught them hundreds and hundreds of moves so far in just the short 2 months that he's been with them, but you got to use the moves that he's taught. Second, you got to stay in control. No matter what position you get in, you need to regain control of yourself and then hopefully regain control of your opponent. And lastly, the biggest one, probably the goal for these young men the whole season, is to wrestle a whole 6 minutes. Whether you're winning, whether you're losing, the goal is to make it that 6 minutes. If you pin somebody early, great. But if you're getting beat, if you're down, to make it those 6 minutes so that you get all the mat time possible, for that evening.
Yeah, it's that's a lesson to learn from the start, which is you think you're going to go out there and use your strength or try to get an early pinfall, and in reality, you really want to use those first couple of minutes to fill out your opponent, to get an idea of how the match or how they're going to wrestle. The longer a match goes, the more favorable it is for us, especially being a young program.
Right.
Because if we get out there and we try to do something rash, or we try to throw a move that we may not be comfortable with, or we may not fully have mastered yet, that can put you in a bad position. When you talk about control, that's really something that you have to have. It's not like football where you have hundreds of plays in a game. You may have one move, and if you throw it out of control or you attempt to do something out of control, it's over.
Yep. You can get caught and it's done.
When the hand slaps the mat, it's over.
Yeah.
So there's some valuable lessons learned there.
And that's one of those things that is different than all of the other sports that people are probably used to. In football, if you have a turnover, you're going to get the ball back eventually. Unless it's late in the game. Tonight, if these guys make a mistake, it may be over. There is no coming back from it if it's a mistake that's bad enough and you get caught. I'm sure there will be matches tonight where wrestlers get caught on their back, and it'll be over within 10 or 15 seconds of once they get caught. So it's definitely a different mindset of how to wrestle a match.
Yeah, and the one thing that I'm excited about, with technology comes a lot of things, and back when I wrestled, there might have been a parent up there with a big camcorder on their shoulder or something. I guess I'm dating myself. It wasn't reel-to-reel film, but they're holding the big camcorder, and now we're filming on an iPad with a program called MatBoss, and our kids all have access to it.
Yep.
And that's a huge learning tool, because seeing yourself out there and seeing the mistake that you made, I almost think it's as valuable a tool film for wrestling as any other sport.
Oh yeah, and that's one of those things that once the kids learn, how to break down their own film and realize, hey, here's where I made my mistake. What can I do differently? It'll be a process that they learn from much. They're able to get it faster, which will then help them down the line. Come Christmas break and come sectional time, which is in early February. They'll have those mistakes learned and mastered, so they're in a better situation. We are getting close, it looks like, to having the first face-off of West Washington school history. They're going to call down the wrestlers from first from North Harrison and then from West Washington, and they will meet at the center of the mat, shake hands, and then continue on across. So it's one of those things that's kind of equivalent to the starting lineups of a basketball game, but done a little differently because it's individual, and because they're going to face each other individually. So they come across the mat, usually shake hands at the center, and then continue on to the coach on the other side. And I believe they're gonna announce everyone, the
JV kids
the
included.
JV kids included, since it is the first match for both teams. Want to get those kids some recognition out there. So we're waiting. I believe Misty Jones is going to give us that call, so you're going to get to listen to her through our headset. So sorry if it's not super clear, but we're going to turn it over to her.
West Washington and the visiting North Harrison Cougars. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to West Washington High School in tonight's wrestling match between West Washington and the visiting North Harrison Cougars. As members of the Indiana High School Athletic Association, it is our intent to promote sportsmanship and to provide standards for proper behavior at high school athletic events. The Indiana High School Athletic Association has developed guidelines for sportsmanlike behavior. Coaches, athletes, and fans should avoid profanity, negative acts, while maintaining a positive approach for players, coaches, officials, and opposing fans. Please help make tonight's contest one of which we can all be proud of by promoting your team in a positive manner. All wrestlers at the top of the gym will be announced. We will start with the JV rosters for both schools. First, for the JV, West Washington Senators. In the 195-pound weight class, a junior, Isaac Lang. In the 220-pound weight class, a freshman, Matt Geary. For the visiting North Harrison Cougars, the 145-pound weight class, a senior, Skylar Mann. In the 152-pound weight class, a freshman, Isaiah Lawson. Also in the 152-pound weight class, a sophomore, Dalton Baylor. And now the starting lineups for your varsity squads. First, for the home team, West Washington in the 106-pound weight class, a sophomore, Jude Liger. In the 106-pound weight class, from North Harrison, a freshman, Jordan Skaggs. From North Harrison, a junior, Coleman Middle. In the 160-pound weight class from West Washington, a junior, Jonah Snyder. From the same weight class from North Harrison, a junior, Andrew Kersey. In the 170-pound weight class from West Washington, he is a senior, Tanner Packwood. And from North Harrison, a senior, Isaiah Dawson. Wrestling this evening in the 195-pound weight class from West Washington, he is a sophomore, Caleb Murphy. And from North Harrison, a senior, Johanna Wilkes. In the 220-pound weight class from West Washington, a freshman, Charles Madden. And from North Harrison, a senior, Avery Walker. And in our final weight class, the 285 division from West Washington, he is a senior, Griffin Packwood. And from North Harrison, a senior, Brent Rudolph. And the head coaches for this evening's teams from North Harrison, head coach Wesley Cook. And from West Washington, head coach Mr. Dennis Tankersley.
Okay, we're back to be ready to start our first wrestling match here at West Washington. I believe they're going to have the national anthem here in just a moment. So we're going to step aside while we have the national anthem, and we'll be back with live action. Well, maybe. Oh, we've got to have a captain's flip first. So we're going to see a flip here. See who gets choice in each period. We do have Nick Littlejohn here, who is our official tonight. He's been doing it for quite a while. His dad, Jim Littlejohn, has done, I know, of 3 state finals. So, you know, that's a pretty big accomplishment. And Nick is working his way up, just like all the other types of officiating. You have to, of course, earn your way up to the top. And you have to start off at sectionals and do so many there, and then so many regionals and so many semi-states before you can qualify for a state. Nick himself was a wrestler at Mitchell and Bloomington South, kind of moved back and forth between the two. So, you know, we do have somebody on the mat tonight who does know quite a bit about wrestling, so that's a nice thing to have.
And a great wrestling name.
Yeah. So I believe now we're going to have the national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that
So we're going to step aside and have the national anthem. We'll be back with our first action after that.
into the gymnasium as we pay tribute to this great nation of ours with the playing of our national anthem.
So we're back to live action here. The teams are going to take their places on their respective benches, which are set up a lot like basketball. For those of you at home, we are going to help assist you a little bit in the scoring because not only do we have the team score that we're going to put up in the bottom corner, we're also going to have the live clock here for you to also see. So you're going to get kind of the best of both worlds as Keith and I try to explain it to you the best of our ability. So you should see the clock roll out in the bottom, be the bottom right-hand corner, which is the individual score and the time left remaining. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to have the team score, which right now is, of course, 0-0 because nobody has wrestled a match yet.
Yeah.
So,
And to clarify, the exhibition or JV matches won't count towards the team score. So only the varsity matches will count towards that team score.
right.
And we are giving up a little bit right off the bat because actually we
Yeah,
filled every weight class,
actually
didn't we? Okay, I thought we were-
like I said, the North Harrison team moved their 106-pounder, Jordan Skaggs, up to 113 to wrestle Jude Livers. So it's going to be a double forfeit at 106 and come out at 113.
And I guess we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up.
I
know
guess
that
I
they've-
didn't hear anything different, so that may change. But at the
At some duels, they will draw a weight class and start at that weight class. So it's not always the bottom
Right.
or the lowest weight class starting first.
right.
It appears it looks like the lower weight classes are preparing to wrestle
Yeah,
those. So
yeah,
we're starting at the bottom.
They're standing up, so that means they're probably going to be the ones to lead this off. Once again, those of you who are watching us on our West Washington live stream, that's great. That's the one that we normally post stuff to, but tonight, because it's a special occasion, we're also posting to the West Washington School Corporation page and to the WW Senator radio page. So
You will be receiving a forfeit this evening.
I guess we're going to have a forfeit there.
They're going to officially do the forfeits, and then they'll wrestle.
Then they'll
on
wrestle
the-
back after
yeah.
that. So. So that gives North Harrison a 6-0 lead.
In the 113-pound weight class, from West Washington, junior Jude Livers.
which Jude Livers is also going to pick up a forfeit.
This evening, Jude will also be receiving
So,
a forfeit.
once again, score in the bottom left-hand corner, 6-6 so far because we have 2 forfeits right off the bat. Then up at the 120-pound weight class is going to be Zach Brown and Nicole Conrad.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight for the 120-pound weight class, first from West Washington, a sophomore, Nicole Conrad.
Nicole Conrad is a sophomore. She's getting her headgear, which is required by the state of Indiana to wear. Comes out and puts on her green ankle band so that they can differentiate the score between the two.
Nicole will be wrestling in the 120-pound weight class against the senior from North Harrison, Zach Brown.
Zach Brown comes out to face Nicole. He will be wearing the red ankle band, so he will be the visitor on the scoreboard up there.
And you also got to give Nicole credit, and this is pretty well a male-dominated sport in a
Yes,
lot of
definitely.
cases. So to come out and compete and to get involved with wrestling, encourage her to come out and work hard. So initially, she's taken to her back. She looked like she tried to throw the head and shoulders there and got
Yep.
stuck.
Does
It's gotta work.
give up 2 takedown, and the official does have 3 in his hand for back points. So once again, if you get held on your back for 5 seconds, that's worth 3 back points.
Got to find a way to work back to her belly. And it's the progression in a wrestling match. If you end up on your back, you got to fight to get back to your belly and then work to your base from there.
Definitely. She needs to work her hand in between the bodies so then she can get up. But that's going to be a fall by the senior Zach Brown. So
less than a minute in.
So that brings the team score to 12-6.
Winner, Zach Brown.
Up next, we should have the freshman Gavin Bruner from North Harrison and the junior Nick Baker from West Washington. They come over, and Nick comes over and checks in at the table.
Next up, in the 126-pound weight class, first from North Harrison, the freshman, Gavin Bruner.
Gavin Bruner walks out onto the mat.
Tonight, his opponent, the junior from West Washington, Nick Baker.
Nick definitely has some wrestling experience. He was at Salem and wrestled there for a little while, and then came here and has some experience here. So this should be a fairly good match here with some wrestling moves that you'll get to see. Nick starts off circling.
Comes into a tie-up. Both of them are in a collar elbow type tie-up.
There's Nick in on a double leg.
Does a good job of getting in there, but you got to get back up to your feet. You don't want to stay down on your knees.
The way he scores points is to get behind here. So even though he's got control of the leg, he's got to get behind in order to score.
There he goes.
So
There
right
we
there's
go.
2
Takedown.
points. First takedown for Nick Baker.
Trying for a spiral ride there to start, but he didn't quite get it sunk in.
He's looking for a cradle on this side now. Sits to his butt, ends up giving up a reversal. So 2-2 is going to be the score here. 2 reversal. So now Nick needs to work up to his feet and stand up to get
Good
away.
job standing up, work back to the center. You don't want to all that work you put into getting back to your feet and then up off the
He steps over
mat.
and gets a reversal there. 2 for Nick Baker.
Runner's half.
Has a deep half sunk in. He needs to get out to the side and run that.
Get that wrist control.
Oh, too quick. He puts in a full Nelson, which is an illegal move. So we're going to give 1 to North Harrison. to Gavin Bruner for the illegal hold. So that makes the score 4-3. Nick is out in front. Can't have a full Nelson. You got to pull one out before you put the other one in.
He had a nice half in there. He needs to really pair it up with a ankle control or a wrist control, something to keep him from getting back to his feet.
Yeah, Bruner is trying to work up, trying to get up to his base and stand up, but Nick's doing a good job of riding on that elbow. Right now,
There
Nick
we go.
needs to sink a half.
Reverse half, bringing it back around.
Nick's going to get 2 back points there, so makes the score 6-3. And then he's going to run it back the other way.
This is the best time to run your half. When you got a guy flat,
Nick does a great job of jumping back and forth, working both sides. You can't just lay on top of him because then you'll be called for stalling.
there you go. Get that wrist pulled down.
So we've got 15 seconds left to go here in the first period.
Oh, almost stuck him. He's trying to do a roll.
Working behind, 5 seconds. We don't want to give up an escape here. We want to stay on top, stay tight. There's the end of the first period. For those of you watching at home, you do wrestle 3 full periods. Green defers their choice. So Red's choice in the second period, he's going to choose neutral, something that those of you at home who are watching, you get choice each period for either top, bottom, neutral, or defer. So he does defer his choice.
Got a discrepancy in the
Discrepancy
score.
in the scoreboard. That would be Mr. Brent Ingram running our scoreboard. I believe the score is 6-3. I don't think it's 8, but this is when the matches take what seems like forever. I'm sure Nick's out there with his heart beating, and now you got to stand and wait for a little bit. And
But as a wrestler, you got to appreciate this just a little bit because they could be a minute into wrestling right now, and instead they get a little extra break.
yeah. So we are correct on the score. It is 6-3. So Nick with the tie again. The big key here is to stay in your stance. Find something that's out there that's given to you. Bruner in on a nice double leg. Nick sprawling back, getting his legs back. Now they're underneath him. Gets his legs
Get around. Got a
back.
spin drill. Post that head and go.
Spins behind for 2.
There we go.
Broken flat, 2. Baker takedown makes it 8-3. Now he's going to sink the half.
There you go. You got an ankle
and
this
run
time.
it. Turn
There
him
we
over.
Go. Set back
Oh,
control.
Too fast. Got to settle in there just a little bit before you try to finish that. So now we're going to go out of bounds.
That's one of the things you learn with experience as well is, you're so anxious to get the guy to his back and you're trying to power through. You got to be willing to settle, come back. Sometimes you got to work a guy over a little bit at a time.
Right. And because they went out and Bruner was on bottom, they returned to the center and he's on bottom. Question again on the score. It is 8-3 because they did choose neutral. So
Ankle pick. He's got a nice little. Oh,
there's a roll.
stick him in that roll. Get
Nick
that
kind of
leg
caught
out
in an
there.
awkward position here on his
Post the
butt,
head.
unable to follow behind there, but now he's back behind. North Harrison does like that forward roll. Nick's
trying to
looking
get a
for
cradle.
a cradle. Needs to stick his head in that hip.
Got to get off his own back. He's got to get off his own back. Oh, gosh. Had control and nearly pinned himself.
We've got no score there for any of the action. Nick was unable to hold Bruner there long enough to get a count at all. So Bruner's still going to be down because Nick did not lose control. So Bruner's down. Nick Baker is on top, up 8-3, 44 seconds left to go here in the second period. Something new for those of you at home, we have our first injury time. So if you get hurt, you get 2 minutes to recover from your injury. If you can't recover in those 2 minutes, it is a medical forfeit. So we're going to turn our camera towards Nick. He does have injury time going, so we've got a clock running for him to, definitely get his recovery time.
Well, and what you really enjoy seeing there with Nick is he's worked a couple moves.
Yeah.
He's done things right. There's a couple times where you can tell he's learned over the last 8 weeks where he got a little out of control. He regained control, settled in, and a week ago he might have got stuck in one of those scenarios. But even with that nice deep shot that the guy got in on him, he was able to get his hips back out, post the head, get control, get back around. And he's wrestling a pretty good match right now.
Yeah, that's one of those things that you learn. The more time you spend on the mat, the better off you're going to be. You're going to be able to link those moves together and, chain wrestle like what you talked about in the beginning. That's what Nick's doing. He's going from one move to the next and not taking a break in between them. So.
And it really is a read and react sport.
Yes.
Because, in your mind, you may have this whole thing played out. Well, I want to do this setup. It's going to take me into this shot. It's going to take me into this move. But the guy's not just standing there for you. He's not letting you do those things.
No.
So you really have to get a feel for what's going on. And, a guy gets in there deep on a shot. You didn't expect that double leg shot. And then all of a sudden your game plan changes. You really got to react to the guy you're wrestling.
That's why it's really important for to have multiple moves that you're ready to use. You've got that are good to go. Because if one isn't working, you got to have something else to go to. So Bruner is able to come back out on the mat. There is 43 seconds left to go here in the second period. Bruner is out of injury time, so if he does have to take another injury time, he will forfeit this match. So, Bruner is on bottom. Baker takes top position.
Good ankle pick.
Driving across.
Really drive that in. Gave up the escape.
Gives up the escape, so now it's 8-4, but Baker back in on a single leg. Got to keep driving. Drive. Bruner holding on to that leg.
There we go. Sink that in there.
Now we've got two takedown Nick. Makes the score 10-4. 10-4. He's got a deep half running it.
Hit him over. 8 seconds toward his head. You got to run it to his head.
Nick's got to keep his weight back. He's learned that Bruner's going to try to roll, so that's not one that's going to work. So it's going to be Nick's choice to start the third period here. Nick's going to choose down to start the third, hoping to get at least his escape, which will give him another point.
Got to avoid reaching back. That's one thing that you always teach him from day one.
Yep, day one, don't reach back. So Bruner gives him the escape. So 11-4. Bruner shoots.
Get around and get your point. Post his head, get a cross face, do something, get around and get your point. Right now he's got nothing. There we go.
There's two, and we're going to get back points. Looking for a pin. Nick settles in.
Yeah, nice.
Deep.
This is a situation where you got all the time.
You got all kinds of time. He's got well over a minute 30.
You don't have to rush this pin.
He doesn't have to rush this. Reverses half. Jumps on top. Fall. So Baker with a win here. Ties the score at 12-12 overall for the team.
Gets his name in the history books. First pinfall
at West Washington.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner in this weight class.
So that makes the score 12-12. And we come up with the 132-pound weight class, which North Harrison is going to send Luke Edlin, and West Washington has Ricky Baker. So kind of some
our next two weight classes, you'll see our guys, we got a real unique wrestling style.
Yes, definitely.
Not bad. I mean, everyone has to develop their own style, but these guys have like a real fluid.
Yeah,
it's fun to watch them wrestle. These guys will keep you entertained.
Yeah. We actually have one of the commissioners for the IHSAA in the house tonight, Mr. Falkins is in the house. I believe that is sitting next
Robert Falkins.
to Coach Bousman. So coming down to see 2 first-year wrestling programs. Probably not going to see that anywhere else in the state on a Tuesday night. So no better place to be than West Washington to see that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a correction on the name in the 106-pound weight class, receiving a forfeit from North Harrison, freshman Jaden Skaggs.
Looks like there was a correction. Jaden Skaggs picked up the forfeit at 106.
Got a little lull in the action here.
First time going through, first time figuring out how it works, what we're doing. So.
And now for the 132-pound weight class, first from West Washington, a freshman, Ricky Baker.
They're discussing at the table. It looks like it's going to be a forfeit, but
Ricky Baker will receive a forfeit in the 132-pound weight class.
Apparently it's backwards. I believe Luke Edlin.
What's going on here?
So I believe Edlin's going to pick up a forfeit at the 132-pound weight class.
Edlin in the 132-pound weight class will receive the forfeit.
So that makes it 18-12 team score.
Not sure what we got going on here.
And then I'm not sure.
Now for the 138-pound weight class.
I believe this is going to be Ricky Baker.
First, from West Washington, a freshman, Ricky Baker.
So a little bit of confusion there on who's wrestling who.
I think we're bumping some guys up.
Yeah,
to
we're
help fill
moving
weight classes.
moving some people
we
around.
We got some guys wrestling up a weight class.
Yeah.
138-pound weight class against the junior from North Harrison, Nate Berryman.
Nate Berryman comes out for the 138-pound class. So Ricky Baker is moving up a weight class to wrestle here. Ricky with the tie there. Drops to a knee. Tries to spin behind, but gets caught for a nice dump there by Berryman. 2 points for North Harrison.
You can tell that the wrestler from North Harrison's got good strength.
I believe we have a grabbing of the uniform. So Mr. Littlejohn is going to talk to both wrestlers and make sure that it was inadvertent and it doesn't happen again. If it does, we'll have a penalty point. So we're going to have 1 green for neutral. So they talked to both of them. I think both of them probably had a handful of uniforms. So we're going to start back neutral here. Ricky Baker is down 2-1. Baker needs to get his legs back. Berryman's driving in. Legs back, legs back. Gets dumped off to the side for 2 more for Berryman.
Ricky smartly bellied out quickly because you don't want to get stuck in a takedown going straight to your back, especially in a double leg situation.
Right, so Berryman lets him up. So now we've got a score of 4-2.
It's very obvious that North Harrison likes to wrestle from the neutral.
Yes, they like to be on their feet. They don't like to be down underneath. But the good news is that at any time you can catch somebody and put them on their back. So there Baker gets a takedown with a half. Got a deep half in. Needs to get out to the side and run that.
Those legs out. One thing we don't do a good job of yet is learning position and rolling a guy. You're going to have to work toward his head on a half.
Right.
You can't just push them over their side. You want to work towards their head.
So we've got 2 near fall Ricky Baker for West Washington, and looks like we're going to get 2 reversal back for North Harrison. So we're going to end up with a tie score here, 6-6.
A lot of back and forth wrestling.
And then we've got a full Nelson on Berryman. So Ricky's going to have a lead here of 7-6. And then we've got some blood for Ricky Baker. So another illegal hold with the full Nelson in there. Definitely
Definitely tell there's some freshman mistakes.
Yes.
Not all these guys are freshmen, but when it comes to
wrestling, they haven't been on the mat a whole lot and don't know a whole lot of the moves, and they know a half from both sides. So put it in both at the same time, and that becomes an illegal hold. So something you can't do. Looks like Ricky has the blood cleaned up.
It's a difficult place to keep covered on your knee.
Yeah. So now there's discussion of the score. They've got it posted as 8-6, but I believe it should be 7-6. So got blood time stopped. We're coming back to action here. Once again, Ricky Baker is up 7-6 over Nate Berryman. Ricky's going to be down here because he was on bottom when the blood time occurred and when the action was stopped, so he returns to the same position.
Good stand up.
Very good stand up.
Very quick. Ricky's definitely a quick guy.
Yeah.
Don't reach back.
Got a half in. Got 2 seconds left. Going to give up 3 back points here. So we're going to come out with the score 9. Oh, only 2 back points there. So it's going to be 8-7 starting the second period.
I really like what I saw about Ricky there whenever he was on bottom. Came out right on the very explosive on the whistle.
Yep, that's what Coach Tankersley is telling him right now. You got to get up and get out. You can't hang out down there. It's got to be explosive, which is definitely something that Ricky can do. Very good first move. Now he's got to clamp down on that half and look away.
Good job.
We're in on the double. In on the double. Nice reversal.
You better get an ankle pick with that half. You can't hardly do that when a guy's up on his base.
Yeah. Keep driving in, Ricky. He keeps driving. We got some back exposure maybe. Not quite yet.
Wrist control. Looks like he's got a wrist in there too. His opponent wiped away the half.
Now he clamps on that side, so Ricky's got to run something else, something other than a half. Looks like Berryman knows how to counter the half. We're going to get locked hands on Baker. So now Berryman has a free move because of the technical violation. Locked hands. Very good explanation there. It's a technical violation, so now the score is 9-9. Berryman is on bottom. Ricky Baker will be the top offensive wrestler here.
He's giving up an ankle pick, it looks like. He's got his legs exposed, and he's got his toes tucked up underneath.
Yep.
He just locked his hands
There we go again, another locked hands. So we've got a half in. Technical violation on green, 1 point red. Now we've got 2 reversal for red for Berryman because he was on bottom and went to the top position. And now he's got a deep half in, it looks like. Baker reaches back. Not in good position there, Ricky. You got to stay flat. So still looking to turn through. Just like before when we said you got to work the arm between the body. That's what Ricky just did. So now he's got to get up and get away. So 1 point for Baker. Escape makes the score.
It would be nice if he got himself a takedown in this period.
Yep. 10-12 here.
You can tell the physical exhaustion.
Yeah, you can tell
that's what we were talking about earlier.
You can tell that they're both very tired. Baker with a half shot there, not going to get that takedown that way. So there's the leg that Baker needs to drive into. Berryman with a cradle locked up, 2 takedown.
Ricky's done a good job of getting off his back, but he's certainly exposed himself to some moves.
Yes. So we're going to go into the third period here with West Washington down 4 points. So it looks like North Harrison's going to take neutral. So Ricky's going to have to get a takedown here. This is where it's important for the takedown to happen.
You could tell that physically North Harrison's got some strong kids. A lot of upperclassmen on their roster.
That's definitely one of the perks of being a bigger school. You've got multiple kids at weight classes. So Baker with a shot and gets caught on his back.
He's got his legs sunk in.
Both legs in. Baker's on his back. There's a pinfall. So North Harrison jumps out with another 6 points for the team.
I'm not sure where Jacob Chastain fits in, or Jacob Edwards fits into this.
I don't know. I'm guessing there may be a weight issue there where he may not have made weight.
Okay.
So once again, if you don't make the weight, you don't get to wrestle that weight class. So that's kind of what I'm guessing, but not 100% sure. So coming up is the 145-pound weight class.
These middleweight classes across the state are super competitive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they always have been. Back even when I was, little, they were always competitive. At the lower weight classes, you get some freshmen in there, and then you get some upperclassmen, and it doesn't always work out well for the underclassmen. And then once you get to the middleweights, it usually evens out. You've got mostly juniors and seniors in those, weight classes to have take the spots there, and you'll see across the state as you get into the upper levels, you don't see a whole lot of freshmen and sophomores jumping into those middle weight classes. So
Pavy's a lanky 145.
Yeah.
Very long-legged. Sometimes those guys can be difficult to wrestle. Rangy guys.
Yeah. Pavey does a good job of getting his legs back there, but Elijah Nash does get behind him for 2 takedown. So once again, West Washington is behind in this meet overall, 24-12. We've had all pinfalls or forfeits so far, so that's definitely an uncommon thing to have in a whole dual meet. So Pavey grabs ahead and is able to suck Nash under a little bit. Comes out to the side. He needs to get behind and pop his head out. Pavey with 1 because they were neutral. All they needed was a break from contact, so that is neutral. So Pavey is on the board, 2-1. Now he's on his back, and that's a deep half. Pavey's in trouble. Pinfall. So Pavey is unable to get the win there. Elijah Nash does pick up that win to make the overall score 30-12 in favor of the North Harrison Cougars.
Now for the 152-pound weight class, first from North Harrison, a junior, Coleman Biddle.
In for the North Harrison Cougars is Coleman Biddle. And then for the West Washington Senators, Braden Wilson. These are getting into the weights that when I've been in the wrestling room, I've got to actually be with these guys and see what they have. And Braden has a lot of talent here if he believes in himself. There's a nice setup there. 2 takedown. Got to stay behind the arm. There's a half. Very nice. Grabs leg. Nice. Needs to drive in. Don't sit with it. Drive into him. So How many of these names for North Harrison do you recognize from their football team?
Well, you know, we scrimmage North Harrison, and they're always a strong, powerful team, but you don't spend much time scouting for the scrimmage. So when we used to have them on our schedule, you spend a lot more time scouting the individual players. But I'm sure some of them are multiple sport athletes.
Yeah. And with the success of their football team, that's the way that the wrestlers really build success too. You know, it builds on itself. So if you have a successful football team, then usually you've got a successful wrestling team.
Braden's got to be careful not to
That's
expose
the reach
himself
back that we're talking about not doing.
and not expose yourself to a cradle. It looked like he didn't need that head.
Yeah. So once again, we're tied here 2-2, first period, 30 seconds left. Wilson then turns in. Keep turning. To reversal for Braden Wilson. So he's now up 4-2. Lets him go. 18 seconds left. This is where Wilson needs a takedown.
He had a great shot earlier.
He had a great setup. That's what we're looking for right here is another good setup and a takedown with 6 seconds to go. Oh, right underneath. No takedown. Didn't have control, didn't have back exposure, so no takedown there. Going into the second period, Wilson is up 4-2.
It's the first time I've seen the leapfrog utilized.
Yes. In fact, it looks like it's going to be 4-3 here.
Boy, North Harrison likes being on their feet.
Yes. They don't want any part of being on top. They want to be on their feet. So you'll see a lot of times when they do get on top, they will just let us up so that they can go back to their feet. Wilson's got a head in there, but not going to help him out. So Biddle does turn.
Get up off your knees.
Off his knees. Right here's where we're looking for a reshot. One escape. So makes it 8-5.
You can tell these guys are looking a little spent already.
Yeah. Braden with a spin behind.
Get your 2.
2 points for Wilson. Has a deep half in and an ankle looking to drive him over. Needs to drive. Drive with those feet. Drive with those toes. Keep driving in. Your whole body is stronger than his hands that are posted on the mat, so you got to keep driving. Held on just a minute too long there, so going to get a 2-point reversal, make it 10-7, North Harrison.
This is a situation where Braden really needs to out-wrestle this kid. He's definitely trying to overpower him.
Yeah, and that's one of those that you may be the stronger person, but if you don't know the technique, it doesn't work. So
don't get caught up in reaching back.
He needs to stand up right here. Put a foot in the mat and stand up.
Get your head out.
Foot in the mat, stand up. He's reaching for a head. Foot in the mat, stand up. We're out of time here in the second period. So now we're going to go to the third period. Going to take down. Coach Tankersley wanted him to defer, but you can't in the third period. So Coach Tankersley's coaching up the rest of his wrestlers who are behind the bench. So Wilson gets set in the down position.
He should be thinking right now, switch, stand up, what's he going to do? You can tell he doesn't have much energy because he didn't explode out of that on the whistle.
Yep. He's back up to his feet again, now back down again. So it's one of those, reached back and looked in, but it may work out for him. There's a 2-point reversal for Wilson. Now he's got a half.
He's got to work on breaking this guy down before he attempts to run a half. Get off your back, Braden.
Braden's in trouble. There's the pinfall.
Got caught reaching back.
That's one of those that I'm sure Coach Tankersley is going to talk to him about. You know, you can't reach back. The more you reach back, the more trouble you're going to get in. So usually nothing good happens when you reach back.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner in the 152-pound weight class, Harrison Coleman Biddle.
So Bruins team scored a 36-12.
Couldn't get to see Jonah Snyder in action. Jonah just recently joined the team, so
Yeah.
this will be his first mat action.
I was there for his very first practice, I believe it was. So.
His opponent, a junior from North Harrison, Andrew Kersey.
Coming out is Andrew Kersey. Oh, and this is going to be super confusing because they just put on the opposite ankle bands.
There we go. We got it.
There we go. Now I got it straightened out. Jonah is one of those who is super fast and uses that to his advantage, but sometimes gets going too fast. Sometimes needs to just slow down and run the moves that he knows. So reaches for the head. Nice double leg by Kersey. Jonah to his back. Jonah doing a good job of fighting off his back, but not good enough. So going to get another pinfall there. Make the score 42-12. Like I said, the matches can be very quick or may, go the full time. So that was one of our keys to victory. You've got to go the full time. One of those that, Jonah was on the mat and didn't get the full mat time experience that we'd like for him to have, to build for the future here. So.
That's difficult. That's his first experience and out on the mat, and definitely looked like he was wrestling a stout wrestler.
Yeah.
They exposed his legs, and the guy took advantage of it right away.
So it looks like we're going to have
Tonight,
a forfeit.
The 170-pound weight class, Isaiah Dawson from North Harrison will receive a forfeit.
So Dawson's going to get a forfeit. I believe, like you said earlier, Tanner Packwood is hurt.
In the 182-pound weight class this evening, it will be a double forfeit. That now brings us to the 195.
Double forfeit at 182, so the score stays the same. And then we go up to 195. At 195.
Kohana Wilkes.
With Kohana Wilkes from North Harrison, the senior. And then
this is two drastically looking wrestlers. This guy is very stout, thick in the legs. Caleb's long and got a lot of length to him. He worked really hard to get to the 195 weight class.
yeah, definitely a different body build here. This is what you will see in wrestling. You'll see tall, lanky kids and short, stocky kids. So, this is a matchup of style here. So. Murphy with a tie and gets out of position, but luckily is able to step out of bounds. So we're going to restart in the center. Because of Murphy's length, it makes it nice. He can reach out there and actually physically touch Wilkes before Wilkes can touch him. With that length, it makes
so
it.
Working an arm bar.
Murphy traps that leg in there, but Wilkes is going to get the takedown. Returned to the mat So now Murphy needs to work on basing up, standing up, stepping up. Caught,
Caught and
but
reached back
uses
himself too. Belly out. You can tell this guy's got some mat experience.
Yeah, he's spent some time on the mat, so I don't know if he's part of Corden's wrestling club. They've got a pretty good club going on down there in Corden. So, North Harrison's not that far, so he could have been part of that. Floyd also has a wrestling club that he may have been part of growing up. So, lots of different options down there. Nice bar and wrist there that Wilkes is running. Murphy's got to work his hand between the bodies here so that then he can belly out. It doesn't matter which hand he picks, but he's got to pick one or the other and work that way. Unable to do so, so we're going to get another fall. Makes it 54-12.
And both of these guys here.
Your winner, 195-pound weight class, Mohana Wilkes.
So next up is the 220-pound weight class with Avery Blocker and freshman Charles Madden. So, like we said earlier, there are individual wins and there are team wins here. So this one is out of reach for the Senators to win as a team, but our last two competitors, Charles Madden and Griffin Packwood, both have a chance to win as individuals. So definitely a change from what we're used to. There's individual and team things going on here. So Charles steps out onto the mat.
His opponent this evening from North Harrison is a senior, Avery Blocker.
And out comes Avery Blocker for the North Harrison Cougars. You can tell just different body build here between freshman and senior. Not taking anything away from Charles. He's a very well-built freshman, but just a couple of more years in the weight room when you look at these two body types here.
Yeah, it's a little more physical maturity. Charles is a competitor, so he's not going to back down. He's going to work hard, but you can tell these upper level weight classes at North Harrison, they got some big physical kids.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're part of their successful football team that they've got. That's the correlation between the two. So Charles in on a nice single leg, does drive Avery Blocker out of bounds. So we're going to return. There was no control there, so we're back to neutral.
With a name like that, he surely played on the offensive line.
Yeah. Or could have been a heck of a fullback.
He's going to try to get going with a throw in here.
Charles should be used to that. That's something that Caleb Murphy loves to run in practice. So Charles needs to realize that he's got the same throw right there that he could throw. So we've got two takedown. So we're going to get two takedown, two near fall to make it 4-0. So we've got a score of 4-0 here. Charles Madden is on bottom here. Avery Blocker on top from North Harrison. Once again, remember we are making history tonight with the first ever wrestling match here at West Washington. Charles up and away quickly. Hasn't scored yet because he hasn't broken contact with Blocker yet.
There you go. I don't know.
No, Blocker able to hold on to a leg. Charles looking to get loose but is unable to. So he's going to have to be on bottom again. Pretty interesting, the crowd tonight. We've got kind of a mixture of a lot of different community members, people who have, ties to the school, people who
Don't reach back.
are teachers at the school, and then community members here. So everybody out supporting the Senators, with their first wrestling match here. Charles on bottom, looking to put his foot in the mat and stand up. We've got stalling on Charles because he hasn't done anything yet. Now he's getting sucked back to his back, giving up back points. He is able to get to his stomach. Going to get 2 back points there. So Charles is going to go into the second period down 6-0. Red's going to defer, so North Harrison defers their choice to the third period. Sorry, West Washington defers their choice to the third period, where North Harrison is going to choose down.
He's not properly aligned on the...
So we start from the top position. Charles with a nice ankle breakdown, driving in.
Oh, yes.
Turns,
Stick him.
Catches him
Stick
with
him.
a half.
You got time. You got all the time in the world. Settle back. Reverse half. He's got to get that.
3 near fall, so cuts the score in half, 6-3. Blocker does have his leg.
Really missed an opportunity there.
Yep.
That's another mistake that Tankersley's trying to correct, is our guys want to go ahead to the mat.
Yep.
You post your own head on your mat, you're
very hard to stand up or do anything with your head planted in the mat. Madden's got to work to a base and bring his feet underneath him so that then he can run some offensive moves from the bottom.
And that's something you think should be an easy task, but when you're 220 pounds and you got 220 pounds on your back, it's a lot of work just to do what he just did.
It's a lot of
locked hands, free move, do something.
It's a very hard thing to do when you're on bottom and somebody's got all their weight on top of you to stand up. So we get a technical violation there on Blocker, who's got locked hands. So Madden's going to get a penalty point there to make it 8-4, but is still going to be down with 33 seconds to go here in the second period. So Madden needs to be thinking of a move right now that he's going to hit.
Yeah, the ref was just warning him there about tucking his elbows in and his arms and stalling when he's on bottom. You got to work even when you're down there.
Yeah.
You can't just.
So there's locked hands again by Blocker.
You can't only work to not get pinned. You got to be working.
Yeah, you got to be
up.
working to get away. So there's another technical violation. 1 point green for locked hands. You can get 4 technical violations in a match before you're disqualified. So the next time Blocker does it, it'll be 2 points to Madden. So kind of one of those things that just kind of against the rules. You can't do it. Kind of like a travel in basketball. So
like to see Charles try to work out a set out or.
Nice breakdown there that time by Blocker. If you hit a breakdown, it's not likely that you're going to have locked hands. Madden needs to reach up and peel that half off.
That half.
Peel that half off.
You got to look away from that half and reach back and wipe it away.
Yep. That's one move that everybody in the state's going to run, and if you can't defend it, they're going to use it on you.
Good
So,
job.
time is up there. Blocker's going to get 2 points for the near fall, make it 10-5.
This guy doesn't know what he wants.
So Madden's going to go down. Blocker's going to go on top. Probably not one of the best choices considering he's got 2 locked hands already.
Yeah.
Um,
Referee's talking to him,
trying to
right
talk
now.
him out of it, but you know it's not one of those that's going to work. So Blocker does take the top position. Madden,
That's good. He went right to the ankle. That kept him off the waist and the tight.
now he can't just hold on to the ankle either. So he's got a deep half sunk in there. Madden fighting it down. That's exactly what we're talking about. You work that hand in between the body and you belly down. So once again, he's got the half in. Charles needs to peel that half off.
This is one of those situations where you think, well, he's not working hard, but you're working hard.
Yeah.
Every time you got to work back to your base, and every time you're trying to stand up. And
There,
get out.
Charles is up to his feet. Got his hips away. Blocker's got a
Gotta get
leg.
that leg out. Got to get that leg out. Got to get that leg out. Ah.
Madden's got to get up again. Up again.
That was a good fight.
That was a good fight, but he's got to do it again. It's one of those, if he keeps doing it 2 or 3 times, Blocker's probably not going to be able to hold him there anymore. So we've got a minute left here in the 3rd period.
That
Madden.
is a big explosion of energy.
Yeah. Madden's got to keep working his way up.
Got to get that wrist control out of there. Got to be able to reach up with that other hand and get him off his wrist.
This is where your hips have to be underneath you, and as you can see, he's all spread out. He's not going to be able to get up. So Blocker's going to pick up a stalling call there. So it is 12-5. Blockers out ahead here for North Harrison. Madden is still down, or in the down position.
He's got to resist trying to reach back. If you're going to set out and run a Peterson roll, some sort of switch, something, because you're going to have to get back points and you're going to have to get him. Time is not in his favor.
There's a nice stand up all the way up to his feet. Now back down. This is where he's got to hit it again.
He's got to learn to stand up and be able to get an underhook or a block or something so they can't get right back into his legs. His stand-up looks solid.
Yep. We got 17 seconds left. Charles has got to get up to his feet and look for a big move here. I don't think he's got the energy left in him to be able to do it. So
that is a good mat experience of 6 minutes right there, though.
Yep. That's a full 6-minute match that Madden just wrestled. North Harrison does win that one by decision. So they do pick up 3 points there to make it 57-12. And now we come to the big boys, the heavyweights.
And Griffin is well under 220.
Yes.
And the other heavyweight here doesn't look like he's much over. He's not pushing 285, nowhere near it.
Yeah.
So both these guys are basically probably 220, 225-pound guys wrestling in the heavyweight.
Right. So we have Griffin Packwood, the senior from West Washington, and they have Brett Rudolph from North Harrison that they're going to send. This will be the last varsity match of the evening. We do have some exhibition and some JV matches. And I believe that is the Triple H theme song playing in the background as Griffin Packwood walks out onto the mat. We were debating in class today when I was sitting with Misty and Clayton. We thought that he should walk out to Hulk Hogan's theme song since he's got the American flag socks that he always wears.
Real American. Oh, you gotta be careful exposing himself. This guy wants to throw.
Yep. He's got the headlock locked up.
Pin that leg.
Griffin able to fight it off.
These guys are active heavyweights. A lot of time you see heavyweights, they'll get in there and it'll be like two bears going at it.
Griffin drives in for a single leg. He's got his head to the outside. Needs to drive in, drive in, drive in, drive in.
Oh no, careful, make sure he doesn't sink
Nothing yet,
in.
no takedown because Rudolph never had control of him when he was down, so.
Oh, pull that arm through.
Oh, now we're in trouble. That's an illegal headlock there. So no arm in the circle, which makes it an illegal headlock. So Griffin's going to pick up 1 point there.
The one thing that happens with Griffin is that he will occasionally burn himself out quick. He's like a candle burning on both ends.
Yep.
Because he will run high.
So apparently we've got a I'm not exactly sure what's going on. We may have
got a situation with the
blood
nails.
time or nails that need to be trimmed. Not exactly sure.
Yeah. That looks like exactly what it is. Griffin got scratched. He showed it to the official, and he took a look at Rudolph from North Harrison, and he has a jagged nail. Typically, they catch that stuff at weigh-in.
Yeah. So looks like they've gotten some clippers to take care of the jagged nail that's out there.
Yeah, the weigh-in is an experience all to itself for no one who's ever been a part of wrestling. Just from the standpoint of you're standing in line, going to weigh in. Obviously, you don't weigh in full uniform. All right, so you're typically in your underoos and waiting your turn to step up. And first thing they'll do is ask you to show you your nails, and they'll look to make sure that you don't have any facial hair below the upper lip. They'll have you turn around. They examine your body to make sure you don't have any infections on the skin, because this is a sport that obviously there's a lot of physical contact. And then finally, you'll weigh in.
Right. And the weigh-in process just in itself is, just like Keith said, something totally different that, a lot of the West Washington wrestlers hadn't been through until they did wrestle their first meet, and then, have gotten used to it and know kind of what to be looking for, so that when you go to weigh-ins, you've got all of that stuff taken care of. You've got your nails trimmed, you've got your, facial hair shaved off, so that it's not, an issue.
Griff has come a long way. Early in the season, he would have walked right into some of those throws. He's done a good job of keeping his weight back and defending them. Or he would go right into a throw himself that he may or may not have fully had.
Right, and that's one of the things that it definitely takes. In wrestling, you've got to have a good partner.
It's a mean crossface he just put on him there.
There's 2 points for Rudolph. If you don't have a good partner and you're just able to throw them around all the time, that doesn't really help you at all. So you want somebody
Hold on, Griff, you got 15 seconds here.
Want somebody who's able to, challenge you, but you're still able to run moves on. So Packwood down 2-1.
Got an escape. Right
2-2.
at the end. Very good. That could be one that you regret. You got 5 seconds. You just got to ride for 5 more seconds, and you end up giving up a point.
Packwood does defer, so Rudolph is going to take the down position to start the second period. Score is tied 2-2.
Griff is accustomed to giving up a little bit of weight. Typically, his wrestling partner is Noah Baker,
who just walked in the building. I just saw him come down the steps. So Noah Baker is back in the building.
Sink it back.
Oh, now Griff's going to be underneath. 2 green, and then 2 red. So we're still going to be balanced here. 4-4.
Good wipe away on that.
So now we're going to give up another 2. So the score is 6-4.
He's
North
riding
Harrison.
pretty high for not having his legs sunk in. Griff ought to be able to take advantage
Griff's
of
got
that.
a leg now.
Tell he's getting a little gassed.
Yep. Is a pinfall there. So Griffin is unable to get the victory there. Rudolph does pull away with the victory to make the final team score 63-12 in favor of North Harrison. So they do get the dual meet win tonight. But the individuals do get some wins for North Washington, or for West Washington. We are going to get, I believe it looks like 2 JV or reserve matches here.
I'm excited that Jude's going to have the opportunity to wrestle. He's a prime example of a kid who has always been active at school, and in junior high he was able to overcome some of the size difference and compete in football. But at some point, it's hard to come in at 112 pounds and try to have an impact in that environment. Here he gets to come out and he gets to wrestle against guys his own size, and he's a kid that's mentally and physically strong. He's fun to be around, and so this is exactly what the sport is built for.
Yeah, he's definitely a prime candidate for the wrestling team as a junior weighing 112 pounds. You're not a whole lot of upperclassmen in the 113 or 106 pound weight classes. Mostly you're going to see freshman and sophomore there just based on the size.
Yeah.
So he's going to get to have some success with wrestling, where on the football team, he's not going to have as much success there as he is probably on the wrestling mat. So they're discussing.
I think we're trying to decide how they're going to match these guys up.
Who's going to wrestle who? So
I think they're going to do their best to match up the guys that have been unable to wrestle yet to this point. The guys that collected forfeits earlier on.
Going to try to pair them up and get them on the mat together so that they do get some experience tonight, because that's what it's all about, is getting the experience. It's nice to pick up a win, whether it's a forfeit or not, but you want the experience of wrestling somebody on the mat.
Oh, I'll tell you, just the week leading up to practice, every time you have a match or a meet is a unique experience to any other sport. You constantly have this goal. You practice and you probably wrestle, in most cases, 5 or 6 pounds above your weight class. And then, as you get closer to match day, you really have to concentrate on eating healthy, making sure you're doing some extra physical activity, because you're going to have to come in and cut the final 3 or 4 pounds.
Yep.
Nothing drastic. Most of these guys are probably somewhere within 8 to 10 pounds of where they came in 8 weeks ago. But you want to kind of build up that reserve energy throughout the week as you're wrestling and practicing hard.
Well,
as it gets closer to the match, you have to be more conscious.
It's an interesting concept, because just in practice alone, you'll come in and you'll weigh in before practice, and you might weigh 130 pounds when you walk into practice. When you walk out of practice, you might weigh 125 pounds if you've worked. If you've worked at practice, you lose 5 pounds in a practice just because of the physical nature of the practice itself. When I was growing up through high school, we didn't have all of the hydration testing and all of the skin fold testing that they do now. So you were able to cut a lot more weight back then than you are now. And it was not nearly as healthy as how they make sure it is, now with all of the precautions for those things. But it's the same process. You've got to be close to your weight throughout the week. I knew when I came in on Monday I needed to be within X amount of pounds of my weight class, because if I wasn't, then it was going to be a much harder week than if I wasn't there. So there were a lot of times where I'd come in, and as a freshman I cut quite a bit of weight because that was where the spot was. So I'd cut anywhere between 10 and 15 pounds a week. But the nice thing about our schedule that we had was we didn't wrestle any duels during the week. Since I've graduated, the rules have changed and you have to wrestle duels during the week.
Yeah.
So I was only required to make weight one time a week, and that was on Saturday morning, and that was the only time that I weighed that weight. And from then on, I was always heavier than that. If I was wrestling the 112-pound class, by the time I actually stepped on the mat Saturday morning, I might be 118 pounds. Put on 6 pounds just in the hour to hour and a half, because of the fluid that you get off your body, and you're able to put the food in your body. So big difference between then and now.
Let's go, Jude!
Jude Livers is going to get to step on the mat here. So once again, this is a exhibition match or a JV match here. Both of these people, I believe, did pick up forfeits for their varsity matches. Jude with a nice takedown there. He is able to get behind his opponent for a 2-point takedown. Nice leg. Driving with a half. Get out to the side. Get off that leg, Jude. Oh, there's going to be a full Nelson.
I didn't drop the one half before he threw the other one in.
And that's a good catch for Jude. Jude knew as soon as he put it in, he knew, nope, that's not going to work, and he wasn't able to get it off fast enough.
Let's go, Jude!
Once again, Jude works for the breakdown, unable to get it, so we're going to have a 2-1 score here.
Oh, that's a deep shot.
That's a deep shot, but Jude's able to get his legs back. Jude's got a leg. Going to scramble, end up on top. Nice job, Jude. Getting back points.
He is very deceptively strong. Obviously he's a small guy, but he wears big baggy clothes to school, and then you see him come out, and he's got the six-pack going and everything else.
Well, it's something in the Livers family. All of them are smaller built people, and Jude, once he gets going and gets the muscle, working, he's got great wrestling technique, through just the first couple of weeks of practices.
It's like he was trying to throw a cradle, but he didn't quite have it. He's got to be careful now that he doesn't end up in a cradle.
Yeah. And as you can see, there's just kind of a pace difference between the lower weights and the upper weights. There's a nice switch that he hits. So 2-point takedown for Livers.
Get some back points. There we go.
Oh, not enough time there. 3 back points. I'm not exactly sure what the score here is. I'm not sure that Mr. Ingram has the score right. So I believe it should be 8-2, but they're going to talk about it for a little bit.
They should have got 1 point for the escape, 1 point for the illegal.
Right.
Technical.
Which gives him 2, which they've only got 1 up on the board. Apparently 13-2.
Gave him some more back points than we thought maybe he had.
Keep racking them up there, Jude. That'll work. We'll take any points we can get. So 13-2 going into the second period. Red's going to go neutral. So
Jude has wrestled a couple 6-minute matches. I almost would say that he had maybe one of the most successful outings at our first meet on the Saturday meet. He only won one match.
There we go. Jude with a pin.
But competitive in all of them, and against some pretty darn good competition for his first outing.
And that's something that Jude's going to learn very quickly, at the lower weight classes. If he's in a 6-minute match, he's going to be super competitive as an individual, maybe when the team might not be. So. And Jude's exit music is Hey Jude by the Beatles. So. Definitely a fitting song for him as he walks off. So
I guess Jacob had trouble making weight today. It seems like from the forfeit we had earlier. But Jacob, you'll see he's got his own fluid.
Yes, this is the one we were talking about earlier. Skylar Mann is going to come out with Jacob.
From North Harrison, a senior, Skylar Mann. This evening, he will face Jacob Edwards.
Jacob is another one of those kids who, hasn't been involved in many other things here at West Washington, but wrestling really is one of those things that he's really taken a liking to and really seems to enjoy it.
A lot of these guys are guys that Tankersley has on his cross-country team.
Yeah.
And, that's a credit to him as a coach that they want to come out and for a whole nother season. A lot of times by the time the season is over, you're ready to nice
headlock
him in a
there.
Good throw. Keep it. You got tons of time.
We're going to be
Give him
out
some
of bounds.
Back points and the takedown.
2 takedown, 3 near fall for the back exposure. So Jacob Mann is going to be down.
This is a very good complementary sport, I think, to cross. We talked about football for the bigger guys, but cross-country, the mental toughness that you have to have and the physical toughness to endure a cross-country season and match is pretty impressive. And so it has those same characteristic traits that you have in a wrestler.
Yeah, and you'll see, a lot of the smaller weights do run cross country.
Get your legs back.
Not only from West Washington, but from other teams too. So, those cross country guys will see some familiar faces when they go to tournaments around the state.
Stand up, Jacob. Stand up, Jacob. Now don't get your head too close to your leg. You open yourself to a cradle.
That's exactly what Mann is looking for here. He's looking for a cross-face cradle.
Good job
Jacob
breaking
Edwards
that.
is able to break it off.
Jacob, you tie your feet together and use both legs' strength to break that grip.
Yep. Once again, needs to post his foot in the mat and stand up. Once again, unorthodox way to get a reversal, but it seems to work for him. So.
We get another reversal.
Gives up a reversal back to Mann. So I believe the score should be 7-4. Jacob bellies down, make it harder to turn him over. 4 seconds. No back points.
Coach! Check it. Check that score. We got back points.
There we go. Now it's up there.
I turned my head at the wrong time to see Griffin using the old farmer's handkerchief right into the trash can. It's a nice way to ruin your appetite.
Well, good thing you only have water here, so.
Don't reach back.
Jacob up and moving again. He's
very
so
explosive.
Quick.
He's got that great stand-up. He needs to just work to break that hold and get the escape. You're not always going to go reversal and get him
needs to clamp down, look away, or he's going to get turned in a half. Clamp down, look away. Uh-oh, we're in trouble.
There we go. Get out of there.
Edwards rolls through.
Stand up. Stand up. He's not on your hips.
Got another half. Edwards rolls through. You hear Coach Tankersley saying, stand up, he's not on your hips. That's exactly what Jacob needs to do.
Up to your feet. So it's hard for the guy that shouldn't be able to throw a half on you.
Turn to the legs, turn to the legs. There's a 2 reversal. Evens the score 9-9.
Get your legs out of there, Jacob. You can't just throw a guy around.
Jacob trying to get his legs out.
There you go.
Ends up on top.
Throw a half.
He's got a crossface, but not a half. Needs to go under the arm. 3 more back points. So
Oh, yeah, he's reaching back.
Jacob does have the 3-point lead here at 12-9.
The one thing I think Jacob might have going for him here is this guy has spent a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And Jacob is a
Jacob
an
has a gas
Energizer
tank.
bunny. He does. He's got a load of it. That's when we talk about, wrestle 6 minutes.
So now we're going to give 2 back the other way. Make it 11-12.
A lot of points on the scoreboard.
This might be one of those matches where the scoreboard isn't able to hold all the points. So Jacob is up 11-12 here going into the 3rd period. Chooses neutral. So we're both on our feet. Edwards needs a takedown here.
No.
Everybody in the gym is yelling shoot. Jacob's having none
Got a
of it.
nice
He's going to
throw.
throw a headlock. So we're going to get 2
Got
takedowns
tons of time.
plus
This is
3 back
a
points.
situation where you got to be patient.
Yep.
You're thinking you're amped because you got a good throw. You got a guy on his back. You got to be patient.
You can sit here for the next minute 30 and be just fine. This takes a whole lot more out of him than it does out of you. So what Jacob needs to do is pivot his hips the other way, and that'll force that other shoulder down. So he needs to walk his bottom leg.
You got all the time in the world. Let's go.
He pivots those hips just a little bit. That bottom leg needs to walk underneath.
A little set out and hips to the sky.
Yep. Actually, man is helping him by pushing on his face. That pushes his shoulders down.
Good job. He looked like he about
had him. There it is. There's a pin for Jacob Edwards.
Get on the right side. That was a good match.
Yeah.
And that's a situation where you wrestle longer, and if you got a better tank, you got the opportunity. That's what we keep saying. Your goal should be wrestle 6.
That's the big one. If you can wrestle 6 minutes, you're in good shape.
Will feature from North Harrison, a freshman, Isaiah Lawson.
So Isaiah Lawson is going to come out at the 152-pound class.
His opponent, a junior from West Washington, Jonah Snyder.
Looks like Jonah Snyder is going to get his 2nd match of the evening here.
This is nice to see because everyone's going to get the opportunity to wrestle. Some of our guys are on the mat twice, but North Harrison's going to get a full slate of matches, so they're all going to get the opportunity to get out there and get some experience.
And that's what's nice about this sport. You can wrestle multiple times so that you do get your matches in. Lots of action there. No points scored. Jonah needs to keep his legs back.
Let's go, Jonah.
He goes in to tie up, and he stands up a little too tall.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say for a guy that's the size he is, but he goes into tie up and he brings his hips up underneath of him. You got to keep those hips back.
That may be one of the only times Jonah has ever heard that in his life, that he's too tall. So
I do like the way our ref has done a good job of recognizing the inexperience of some of our wrestlers, talking them through some things.
That's
kind of telegraph that.
Well, and that's that with Nick Littlejohn, the official tonight. That is one of the nice things. His dad has been involved in the wrestling world for a long time, and was the director of wrestling education for a while. So, Nick is extending that, that his father's done, and bringing it to 2 first-year programs, not penalizing for things that, to help the wrestlers become better wrestlers. Jonah
you can tell
looking
Jonah's
for the throw.
Used to out-muscling guys, and it's just a hard thing to do on the mat.
Yeah.
As he's doing exactly what we talked about, get those hips out.
That's one thing that a lot of the West Washington wrestlers are going to have to learn, that even though you may be strong and you can lift a lot of weight and push a lot of people around on the football field, that doesn't necessarily equate to the wrestling mat. Wrestling is a whole different ball game. You've got to use your hips more than your actual muscles that you've got. So.
And he's going out there, and he has literally had 5 practices under his belt. And, that's a difficult thing to overcome.
Yeah. So it's a.
This is where Braden needs to learn that he's got to wrestle with his head.
Yeah.
He's got it. He maybe has the best toolkit of all of our kids from the standpoint of moves that he's taken to it. But sometimes he gets out there and he wrestles to the other guy's strengths instead of wrestling his match.
He could be one of those kids who is a takedown machine. If you just let him take people down and let him up and take him down again, he's one of those kids. He's got that many moves on his feet that he could be very successful doing that. When he gets frustrated is when he's on top and he can't turn somebody, or when he's on bottom and he can't get away. So if we can keep him out of those situations, he could be a very successful wrestler just working on his feet.
Gotta get your legs out.
And he's also one of those kids who picks the best one in the room to go after. His practice partner when I've been there has been Tanner Packwood, who he gives up 20 pounds to.
Yeah.
Just so that he can better himself.
I tried to go for a throw and he exposed his legs.
Yep. So there's going to be a takedown by Dalton Baylor. Looks like a half. Straight to Wilson's back. Not how you want to defend that.
Come on, Brayden.
He needs to just stand straight up instead of he's trying to already initially turn into the guy.
Yeah.
You got to get to your feet first before you can try to break that to get the escape.
It's one of those that say,
don't turn and reach.
Don't reach, don't reach. He's reaching for the head, trying to score points instead of just getting away. Or if he gets away, he'll score his points. There's the reach back again. And as you can see, when you reach back, you give up a half. So, going to get one
escape
for the escape. So, going to make the score 2-1. 28 seconds left to go here. Going to be on their feet, which is where I would want Wilson anyway. The discussion is, did Wilson have control out of bounds, which he would have to be behind to get control, and if he was behind, they were out of bounds before they got there, which is why they're in the neutral position instead of Wilson being on top.
I think Tankersley there brought him to the table, maybe to try to get us a little win to have 20 seconds and maybe score a takedown.
And that's a good tactic to use. I mean, that's a coach knowing his wrestler. Hey, if I give him a little break, then this last 20 seconds, he may be able to score another point.
The other thing you notice with our guys is just getting used to the equipment. We have headgear issues often.
Yeah.
You really got to cinch those things on tight, or they will move around on you quite a bit.
And the goal is to keep those on your head, not down over your eyes. It's not meant to be a distraction to you. It's meant to protect your head.
He's doing a good job of staying on his base, but he really should be looking up. You know, you want that head directional up. That's the way you want to go.
Right.
You don't want it down, looking at the mat.
There's a half. He's reaching back again, not where you want to be.
Don't reach.
And that reaching back comes from inexperience, and there's not somebody in the wrestling room who knows, hey, when he reaches back, throw a half. You know, so it's
Nice
one
reversal.
of those kind of a learned behavior in the wrestling room because we don't have the experience yet. But the more time they spend on the mat, the more time they'll realize, hey, you can't reach back here.
I think this is another situation maybe where conditioning is a factor. The longer Braden wrestles, the stronger he gets, and maybe the weaker the opponent becomes.
And that's a very good point. You know, conditioning has a lot to do with the wrestling scene, and if you're in better condition, a lot of times you win the match, whether you know more moves or not, just because you're in better condition. Which is why those cross-country runners do so well in wrestling. Nick Littlejohn gives a stalling call.
Get back, get your legs back. Cross face. Cross face and get your leg free.
This is where Wilson can use the mat to his advantage. He can drive straight in and go back to the center and start on top.
That's potentially dangerous as they get to the edge of the mat.
Yeah. So continue to fight here. 10 seconds left. Wilson is up 3-2. Looks for another half.
So he did a good job there of listening to the coach. For the longest time, he could have posted that head, and finally that voice came through, and he recognized what he needed to do.
Yep. So we go neutral here for the third period.
This has been a well-wrestled match, but a lower-scoring match.
Yeah. Which is what can happen when you have, evenly matched wrestlers. You can end up with a very even score. Wilson with the takedown there. Makes the score 5-2 in the third period.
It was a pretty good block of that shot because initially he was in pretty deep on the single leg.
Coach Tankersley's yelling, don't pull him on top of you. The best thing that Wilson can do now is to limp leg his leg out and jump sides and run that half that he's got in. There's Tank again. Don't pull him on top of you. Don't pull him on top of you.
Cross